If I could only figure out how to get my team motivated.
We are never going to get this project done on time.
Oh my God, my payroll numbers are insane. Why are we having all this overtime?
Do you have these or similar employee problems? Do you feel like some of your employees are just there for a paycheck? Tired of recruiting, interviewing, onboarding, and training just to find out you must do it all over again? Then it's time for you to find out how to have outrageously awesome employees. Sit back, buckle up, and get ready because we're about to drop a knowledge bomb on you. Please welcome to the mic the host of the show, the man who puts the human in human resources, the 007 of team building, the emperor of employee engagement, Randy Starr.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of How to Have Outrageously Awesome Employees. Today, Louie Lugo, who's the Vice President of Human Resources for First Light Home Care, is joining us. Good afternoon, Louie. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, Randy.
Very good. Very good. Now tell us, where are you? What state?
I'm here in Denver, Colorado.
Denver. That's right. The Mile High City. Awesome town. Love Denver. Been there many times. So before we get started, I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions. But before we do that, if you would, let everybody know a little bit about you, kind of like your resume, what you've done in the past, what you're doing now, that type of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm originally from the South Florida area, West Palm Beach, Miami there. And I've been in Colorado for 4 years now. Time sure does fly. And I've been in HR for about 16 years. I have served here with First Light Home Care for 2.5, going on 3 years. And I've worked in 5 different industries within HR. So what's kind of interesting is we may talk about later today that senior care I've found is hands down the most challenging and the most rewarding industry that I've worked in to date. So yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, senior care. I have a very good friend who is in that I'm not exactly sure what he was doing, like maybe the manager of a unit or something like that. But he said the exact same thing many times. Extremely challenging, but very rewarding. So that's cool. So 5 different industries. So you've got a great varied background there. Currently in senior care, I mean, you've got a lot of employees. It's pretty labor intensive. And any time you get into that situation where there's a lot of employees, we seem to have employee related issues or challenges. What do you see as the number one challenge, employee related, and what do you do to try to prevent or overcome that challenge?
There are many challenges. And, I think we kind of see some cyclical trends as well, depending on what's going on in the calendar, seasonal. But I think in general, it's employee engagement. And it's a slightly different reframe, if you will, I think, for most employee engagement scenarios, because we're working with, about 90% of our employees are care staff. So they're not in the office, they're working remote in the homes of our seniors and veterans. And, they're engaged fairly well with our client base, but the actual connection of here with the support team, the office staff to our care staff can sometimes be problematic. So one of the things that we do is we make it a point to reach out to them periodically and make sure that they know in all the ways that we can be and serve ultimately as a support system for them.
Yeah, it's a little different scenario when they're not all right there with you, when they're
right
out and about. And now, do you see them every morning, or do they leave from their home and go somewhere else?
No, yeah, that's exactly right. So if we see them 4 times a year, that might be a lot.
Wow.
So one item, though, that's related is that with the first 6 months, nearly everyone comes into the office every other Friday to pick up their paycheck. So that actually we've seen across all of our locations as a little bit of a connection point within those first 6 months, just to make sure that they're good to go. And then after that point, we put them on direct deposit. And it tends to be a little bit more plug and play at that point.
That's challenging. I mean, it's challenging enough when you're, hands-on. Group is here, team is here. You see them every morning, every lunch, every evening, on the way in, on their way out, dealing with them on a daily basis. But when you see them 4 times a year, that's got to be, I could see how that would be very challenging for sure. So obviously your engagement with them and their engagement with you is a challenge. And you're busy. We've discussed this, I don't know how many times over the past 12 months, the changes in human resources in the last 15, 20 years. You've been doing it 16 years. So you've seen a lot of those changes from personnel department to business partner and everything in between. So I can remember when I was a kid, my mom worked in, I can't remember if they called it personnel or employee relations, but it was basically record keeping from all the employee files. It did not include nearly what responsibilities HR departments have now. So being as busy as you are and having that engagement issue, do you have any type of programs in place? And how do you make sure they stay on track as busy as you are?
Well, I think we found multiple solution paths here. For example, one is that we're in a very competitive market here in the Denver office, Colorado, and so forth. And although we have locations in 44 states, this is where my office is. And what we've noticed here in Colorado is that any sort of program that we decide to trial or any sort of strategic initiative, if it works in Colorado, it's probably going to work just about anywhere in the U.S. And part of that is because our unemployment rate is so low. And to add to that, in Colorado, there's over 700 senior care agencies.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about an uber-saturated market here. And, with the influx of other franchises, and you even have Amazon here as well, the effective minimum wage has been raised into near the $15 mark.
Wow.
So one strategy that we have successfully implemented is that any of our care staff can come in every 90 days for an employee review. And it's very simple, very informal, usually takes about 15 minutes. And each one of those reviews, they are eligible for a raise. So every 90 days, our care staff is eligible for a raise, and they almost always get it. And that's kind of a win-win because we know, one, it's a competitive market for hourly workers everywhere, but certainly here in Denver. And then to have that face-to-face communication, which is very rare in this remote worker industry, that also serves its purposes as well. And one of the things, we genuinely care about our people. So in those employee reviews, me or anyone on my team will ask, how's it going? And then, is there anything that we can do differently or better to support you? And usually, more often than not, we get, everything's great, you guys are awesome, we're so happy to be here, which is wonderful to hear, certainly. But we really enjoy hearing what isn't right, so we can figure out what's wrong, how to fix it, and is it a larger systemic problem that we can take a bigger picture, zoom out look at and really understand what it is and how is it affecting our organization. So then we also talk about short-term and long-term earning potential within the franchise. So I feel like, I'm not sure exactly what other businesses are doing, but this is kind of a hands-on approach to our workforce, to let them know that they're supported, they're appreciated, and that we are committed to doing anything we can to compensate them at the most competitive level.
Wow, that's great. So are they responsible for initiating that 90-day?
They are.
Okay, so you really have, you've put the the time in their hands. So they're in control.
Absolutely. And I mean, we can't really do it any other way because, I mean, let's see, 100 employees in the Denver office, over 8,000 franchise system wide. We really don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Right.
Yeah, but that's just one of several initiatives that we take care of to care for our employees.
That's good. So, yeah, it would be very difficult with that many employees to do that every 90 days for all of them. Putting the ball in their court, so to say, making them responsible for it. And I'm sure they have to schedule a time to make that happen. That's one great way of making sure a program works. And one of the biggest things we do with engagement is post-engagement survey. Is we tell all of our clients it's the responsibility of the associate to create the action plan, not the human resources person. The human resources person isn't the one who had an issue with that particular area.
Right.
It's them. Let them do it. I mean, don't just say, okay, do it and give it to me. Structure it, sit down with them, but put the responsibility in their court because they take ownership for it. And just like with your program, if I worked there, I'd have it on my calendar. Okay, my 90 days is up. That's what I call Louie. Louie, I need an appointment.
It's that painful.
That's great. And that not only gives them ownership of it, but it would in some ways also indicate who your, overachievers are, because they're going to be like me. For 90 days, they're going to be calling you.
Right. Our top performers certainly call the most. And I think what we're seeing is that it also puts the ball in their court so that no one can say, I haven't gotten a raise in X amount of time.
Right.
Because that simply doesn't apply to anyone who can follow through and pick up the phone and give us a call. So, it works out very well.
That is a great plan. I like that.
Yeah. And then, I think there's a lot of other employers that, the raise process is somewhat arbitrary.
Right.
It can be, right. So if you come in as a new hire knowing whatever you're starting at an hourly wage, but without a questionable doubt that you're going to get a raise every 90 days, and specifically about how much that raise is going to be, well, then, there's a certain amount of reassurance there.
Right.
And
also,
it goes a long way toward employee-employer trust.
Yeah. Plus, also, it's a great incentive to do your job well.
Right.
Because I'm going to be sitting in the review board every 90 days. I want to make sure that I remember you. You did this and this. That's awesome. So you mentioned unemployment. Denver's low. Do you know what the number is currently for Denver?
Well, a couple of years ago, we dipped under 2%. So we were in the ones. And I remember that for the state, we were tied for first with North Dakota.
Right.
And it's bounced back a little bit. I'd suspect right now the Denver MSA is probably right around 3.2%.
Yeah.
Still quite low.
I mean, nationally, we're hovering around 4 and have been for a while. So less than 4. Super difficult times.
Yeah.
And since the type of work that you are looking for is skilled in a specific area, and you've already not only do you need skill, you have low unemployment, and you said there's over 700 senior care agencies in your area?
In Colorado.
Right. So that's 700 competitors, right?
Correct.
So how has all of that affected your retention, and what do you do to attempt to overcome that and make sure you keep the folks that you already have, other than what you just discussed, the 90 days, which I think is great?
Yeah. Well, again, that kind of market saturation definitely creates some competition and some challenges when it comes to retention issues, because what we've seen is that a caregiver will jump for 15 cents.
Mm-hmm.
They will do that.
Yep.
So that being said, we we give them at least a quarter every 90 days.
Wow.
We also offer some career advancement incentives. So one of those is that we offer free CNAs. So if they're looking to become a CNA, we have found wonderful programs in our areas here that they can do the CNA program. They cannot be, they don't have to be out of work too much. We found one program locally here in Denver that it's only 5 weeks. They only have to attend 5 times, and they're a CNA in the state, which is very rare. Usually that typically runs about 10 weeks, and it's kind of a weekly grind, you know. So a situation where you only have to attend 5 times in a hybrid course where the rest of it is online, that's significant. So we love helping out our care staff who are not certified with that endeavor. It ultimately becomes a win-win for both us and the employee. And then we have a number of different trainings throughout the year to help them as well. But, you know, just having that connection with the employees, letting them know that we're here to support them. Yeah, it really goes a long way. So that's about it.
Yeah, that's free. So you get them certified and you pick up the tab for the training.
Correct.
That's awesome. I mean, and win-win is exactly what that is.
Right. And I mean, again, I think a lot of this has been trial and error. But since we know that they're coming from other employers and most of the time they've had a lot of issues because for whatever reason, the senior care bar is quite low. The national average for retention in the senior care industry is about 62%.
Wow.
Which is devastatingly low. Right. We tend to average about 25 points higher than that. And I believe that's, you know, the culmination of the fact that we genuinely care. That's our culture of care philosophy, which is really the root of our mission and values. And then we back it up with some concrete support and how they can move on and do something better. You know, we have seen, not only do we have, you know, non-certified caregivers and CNAs, but we have someone within the full healthcare spectrum, more or less. So non-certified caregiver, CNA, medical assistant, LPN, RN. We have some pre-med majors who are also on that track as well. And then some of our most talented and, if not unique, care staff, they're training to be end-of-life doulas.
Wow.
So we run the whole gamut, and we understand that not everyone wants to come in and be a caregiver and do that for years and years, although we do have some of those. We support professional development and ambition, and we give them the avenues to explore that. So
that's phenomenal. That does nothing but help them, which in turn helps you. So
right.
Huge win-win. Very good.
Yeah.
Louie, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Monday and sitting in with us and answering some questions.
Sure thing.
This is going to help lots of people, so that's great. I don't know how that's just so great. I mean, the things that you went over, the stuff that you talked about, phenomenal. I wish a lot of other organizations, the same thing would happen to them. I mean, the 90-day deal, that I don't know how you could beat that. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's just unheard of in a lot of cases.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to kind of maybe cap some of those ideas into a larger thought that if another organization is looking to create some of those positive changes in their organization, one thing that we have the benefit of having is essentially zero red tape. So when we know something that needs to be done, we have a pretty good idea of how it's going to positively affect our operation. We move with it. You
Right.
know, and when we were looking at an ATS for the Denver office, we did that in under 30 days.
Wow.
I think most organizations would take 3 months or so, a good quarter to do that. Maybe a quarter just to review the platforms.
Yeah.
And so when we see that ability to act and move forward with that, we start to see real results. And I think there's a lot of high-level HR professionals who love strategic planning and this kind of big picture organizational design, and I'm one of them. However, what I've learned over the last couple of years in this position and through some external colleagues is that culture eats strategic planning for breakfast every day of the week. So when we look at how we can enrich that culture and really take a bottom up approach to what our care staff, our workers really need, and we just simply directly go to what they need and get it done, then it's very easy to see, how it affects the bottom line, how it affects the office staff's ability to support that workforce that needs less support, who is happier and more engaged. And I think sometimes we get into this analysis by paralysis type of thing where it's like, oh, we have this big organization and we have a lot of moving parts. And I'm like, well, yeah, but maybe we just want to look at one or two things, and maybe, that 20% affects 80% of the organization, Right. So
I've worked with organizations that would take a quarter to put in a new water cooler. So, but let alone a new initiative.
I understand.
Oh, super. Louie, again, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. And those of you who are watching who haven't subscribed yet, please hit the button below and subscribe. And every time we have a new episode, you will be notified. Thank you much, and bye for now.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Please feel free to contact Randy with any questions about team building or employee engagement issues. Subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified when new episodes are published.